Six Nations, week number 4, folks. Game 1 sees Italy hosting Scotland. The squads are out. We'll go through them. Some of the ins and outs, some stats, predictions, recent history. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how this one may or may not be going to go. But pressure on the Scots to put pressure on the Irish, basically. Scotland are on 9 points with their 2 wins and a loss. And, the kind of Irish results out of their hands. But to keep the Six Nations alive and keep their hopes alive at least until the following game, could use a win. And they'll probably be chasing a bonus point. The Italians got that one draw. Still 0 in the wins column just yet, but have been looking improved. And a 10th ranked side in the world is the highest they've been in quite some time. So at home, the Italian fans will certainly be pushing their boys on to get as high as they can and avoid that wooden spoon. For the Italians, they have made a handful of changes from the team that played in that away game in France. The biggest talking point is potentially Lynagh, who was in the English camp not that long ago, being eligible for multiple nations, that fella. But being born in Italy, he is Italian qualified, and he's named on the right wing, so congratulations to him. He'll make his test debut in that game. That move means Menoncello switches back to 12, which I think personally I'm pretty happy with for what that's worth. I think he was making a good kind of combination with Brex in the midfield. The other outside backs, Capuozzo still there at fullback, and Monty, Ioane there on the left wing. So I would call that a pretty attacking-minded Italian back three. And I think in terms of pure entertainment value with both these back lines, you're probably going to get value for money out of this game. Forward pack-wise, Fischetti, Nicotera, and Ferrari are the starting front rows. Ferrari was on the bench last time, so he gets promoted to a starting role for this one. Cannone and Ruzza, line-out king Ruzza, continue on in the second row. Ruzza, I think, is first equal for line-out takes this Six Nations. Sebastian N is back in the number 6 jersey, which is a bit of good news after he missed out with injury for the last one. Lamaro is still there at captain number 7. He is the top tackler in the Six Nations by a long way. He's made 55 tackles in the first 3 games. I think the next best was Tommy Reffel from Wales, who's had 46. Now, you do get a lot more chances to make tackles playing for this Italian side because they tend to have less ball, but he's been doing it well, leading from the front. And Vintcent is there at number 8. I think his inclusion in the Italian side has been, it's been a pretty kind of meteoric rise, from test debut to looking really the business in that last game against France. Still very young man, so a lot to come from him. So that's the starting 15. I forgot to mention Page-Relo and Garbisi continue on at 9-10. So there's been a little bit of rotation with number 9, but I think we're getting a back-to-back bit of stability here from Coach Quesada. So maybe this is a preferred combo. It's a bit too early to say because it's only 2 games in a row, but hopefully he kind of at some point will pick who it's going to be. Bench-wise, it's Lucchesi, Spagnolo, and Zilocchi. So Zilocchi drops to the bench for this one. Zambonin and Lorenzo Cannone are in the 19 and 20 jumpers, respectively. Cannone, I think, also missed the last game through injury, so he's another guy returning. 3 backs on the bench this time with Vani, Marin, and Mori dropping to the bench. Last game, they went 6-2 split, so going with the extra back for this game. For Scotland, the squad is pretty stable. There's not too many kind of left field selections, although they are without Sione Tuipulotu in that number 12 jersey. His partnership with Hugh Jones has been exemplary. Those guys know each other's moves, and they play off each other really well. So Redpath takes that spot up from the bench, and he's also looked pretty sharp when he's been playing alongside Hugh Jones. Hugh Jones, I think, has set up 3 tries, which is also first equal in the Six Nations. So having a pretty good tournament, just quietly. But we'll see if they can kind of replicate some of that Hugh Tuipulotu magic. Duan van der Merwe, 5 try. Duan van der Merwe is there on the left wing back. 3 of those in that last game against England. Kyle Steyn and Blair Kinghorn in the back 3. As I mentioned, pretty exciting. I mean, we saw a bit more of Kinghorn's high ball work than kind of open running rugby in that last game against England, but he certainly got in the bag if needs be. Front row, Schoolman, Turner, and Ferguson. That is absolutely stable from the last game, and certainly seems to be Gregor Townsend's preferred starting front row, and I think for good reason. Grant Gilchrist, Scott Cummings, the locks, and Andy Christie, Rory Darge, Jack Dempsey in the back row. So the back row is the one area where Gregor seems to keep tinkering. This time it's Christie who gets a crack at the number 6 jersey, which means Jamie Ritchie is finding himself once again riding the pine. I mean, he's been talked up a little bit, old Andy Christie from Coach Gregor Townsend. I mean, he basically said that he's been making a difference from the bench, so kind of earned himself a start. And admittedly, man, he's won a couple of turnovers from the bench, which is the kind of impact you want to see. Darge is a tackling machine. Dempsey, I think, won a turnover or 2 as well. So, yeah, lots to like about the Scottish forward pack, I reckon. But, yeah, we'll see if either side is able to really kind of boss things up front. Bench-wise, Ashman, who had a great impact from the bench last round, is there on the bench alongside Hepburn and Miller-Mills. Skinner is also there, Jamie Ritchie, as I mentioned, and Matt Fagerson back into the 23 in the 21 jumper. So just the 2 backs with a Scottish 6-2 split. Ali Price and Kyle Rowe into the 23 to basically man the backline. Gregor talked about the versatility of some of the guys in the starting 15, the likes of a Blair Kinghorn who can play half the positions in the backline or more. So, yeah, allows them a bit more flexibility with the way they pick the bench. Ben White, I guess, is the maybe kind of biggest talking point in terms of absences, but Gregor basically said he's played a lot of rugby, so is kind of due for a rest. Stats-wise, the Italians have been conceding a lot of run meters, which again happens if you don't have that much possession. They've been averaging only like 43% possession, conceding over 460 run meters a game. The Scots are still in the high 300s, but as I said, the Scots tend to play with a bit more ball than the Italians. The Scottish goal kicking has been flawless thus far, 100% in all 3 games. Whereas the Italians, as they found in that last game where they missed, kind of controversially, that last kick to beat the French, which ended up in a draw, they're only just over 50%. So the goal kicking from the tee, not quite there for the Italians. You would think if they're going to get a win over what is a pretty strong Scottish squad, they will need to kick their goals. But remember, this Italian squad is the youngest in the Six Nations. So we've been saying this maybe for a few years, but you would think they are going to get better year on year as these youngsters become the kind of senior guys that they can be. But as I said, 43% possession. But more passing than the Scots. They like to chuck the ball around. The Scots have been kicking a lot of ball. Finn Russell, I think, has kicked 61 times. The next highest is Ben White with 38. So, yeah, the Scots are kicking a lot of ball from hand. I mean, some of it's thing of beauty stuff when you see the likes of that cross kick out to Duhan van der Merwe against England from Finn Russell. It's not just all hoofing it long, but they can certainly play that game when they need to. However, concerningly for the Scots, that last quarter, man, they've conceded the most points, I think, of any of the teams in the Six Nations that final quarter. And they have scored, I think, 3? They've not scored many points in the final quarter. So, final 20 minutes, potentially away from home. We will see. The recent history would tell you the Scots are going to be pretty comfortable favourites because of the last 5. They have won all 5 with an average score 34-15. So the games haven't been particularly close. Amongst those 5, you've got a 33-22 at Stadio Olimpico 2022, last time they played there. So maybe that's an encouraging sign for the Italians if they can kind of get it within 10, 11 points. Score a late try in the final 20 when the Scots have been conceding a lot of points, maybe. But yeah, it's 2015. It's not quite a decade, but we're closing in on that mark since the Italians have beaten the Scots. Bookies, in terms of their predictions, are saying the Scots by 11. The Rugby Forecast algorithm, a little bit more conservative, saying the Scots by 6. It is on at Stadio Olimpico, 3:15 local kickoff. I think that's an hour ahead of the old GMT time zones. It's a pretty horrendous hour. I think it's going to be 3:15 in the morning for me here in New Zealand. But I'll be getting up to watch it. And Angus Gardner, who was refereeing Super Rugby only a week ago, will be heading up. Hopefully he's over his jet lag to referee this one. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Do you see the Scots going ahead and securing 5 points to put as much pressure as they can on a high-flying Irish side? Or do you think it's chance for the Italians to finally get a win in that so far winless win column? You guys let us know your thoughts and talk to you guys again soon. See you later.